So I am Dr. Lisa Schulte-Moore. I'm a faculty member at Iowa State University in Natural Resource Ecology and Management. My background is in both forestry and wildlife, and I also work on agriculture.
What are some precautions Minnesota is taking, if any?
USDA APHIS, I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but they've put up monitoring stations all over that have pheromone traps or something like that that capture emerald ash borer if they're in the area. And so there's been a monitoring network in place to look for ash borer since they were first discovered. And so monitoring is one precaution to figure out where they're moving. Also, if people through University Extension or through cities, the urban foresters, or through trained arborists, if they see an ash that was dead, they try to identify why it died and whether there might be emerald ash borer in the region.
Can a tree or an ash tree be saved if it has been infected or invaded by an ash borer?
You can treat the trees with an insecticide, inject it into the phloem of the tree, but the effectiveness of that insecticide is limited. And so you have to continue to treat the tree over time. It's not just kind of a one-time treat, one and done. I don't remember how long the treatment lasts, but I want to say about a year that you would again need to treat the tree. And it costs about $100 a tree. So for someone that had a shade tree in their yard that they just really loved, it had maybe some sentimental value and such, they might be willing to treat the tree for a long period of time. But most homeowners aren't going to be able to afford to do that. Most communities aren't going to be able to afford to do that. And certainly for ash trees in natural areas, that's not an option.
In places that has been invaded, have you personally seen a decline?
So in the places that I've seen that have been invaded, St. Paul, Minnesota, and Superior, Wisconsin, in both places they've been pretty heavy-handed with trying to control it. And so, quarantining the area and taking down all ash within the area that they found it. And then out from that initial sort of zone where it's been detected, they've started to try to more slowly, replace all the ash street near trees, setting up incentive programs for homeowners to replace ash and those kind of things.
What are some common predators?
Insects will be eaten by lots of, they're kind of at the base of the food chain for a lot of birds and mammals, spiders, potentially in some areas you might see, not here, but in other areas of the country, you could potentially see an amphibian or a reptile, if it was in a wetland area. For the amphibian, potentially predating upon emerald ash borers. My sense is that all our native animals that feed on insects might feed on the ash borer, but it's very rare for say birds or mammals to be able to keep insect populations in check. There's just not enough of them. Mm-hmm. When we look at potential for biocontrol, we usually look at other insects or some kind of fungus or, something like that to try to keep their populations in check. Right now, I know of no efforts to try to provide biocontrol to the emerald ash borer. I'm sure some people have looked into it a little bit, but I haven't heard any, real viable options that have been floated. There's a couple experiments that are going on now, kind of looking at, since we know eventually many of the ash resources in the region are going to decline substantially and potentially even go extinct. There's questions about, okay, well, ash provide a functional role in forests in Minnesota, and how do we begin to replace that function, what they do in the ecosystems. And in particular, there's strong interest in trying to find a replacement for black ash. Green ash and white ash, where they occur, they tend to occur in mixed forests. They're just one of the trees in the forest. But where black ash occur, they tend to be pretty much the only tree in those environments. You find them in lowland areas, so wet, swampy type forests. There's experiments going on looking at experimentally killing off black ash in areas, these swampy forests, simulating the impacts of the emerald ash borer, underplanting with a variety of species. And I think they're looking at about 8 or 10 candidate species. They're looking at American elm, hackberry, swamp white oak, Manchurian ash from China, box elder, there's a few more, but those are the ones I remember off the top of my head. So other species that could potentially do well in that situation. One, because wanting to maintain forest in these areas, so things like elm or hackberry could help maintain forest. But looking at the Manchurian ash, because it would mimic the cultural resource that black ash provides to the Native American communities. And so, yeah, this is an experiment being run by the U.S. Forest Service scientists associated with the Northern Research Station, and it's been going for about 4 years. And now they're monitoring the impacts on the tree growth, the survival of the trees, the water in these wetland forests, and then trying to understand what would do a best job of replacing black ash in that situation.
All efforts have failed. What is the overall impact?
The impact here in northern Minnesota, I mean, it's really devastating to lose a whole genus from a forest. And so our forests overall just become less resilient to other changes as well, especially those black, the black ash swamp, if we don't replace, if we can't replace that functional role that the ash trees are going to play. But here, I mean, we have enough species diversity that at least, for this one, we can probably absorb, the loss. But there's other places like in the southwest of the U.S. where there's, ash trees. I can't remember what the species name is off the top of my head. You could look it up. But there's, canyons along riverways where basically this one species of ash is the only, shrubby, woody species that you find along these canyons. And so when you talk about losing ash from that situation, then you talk about losing really important habitat for all sorts of biodiversity. You talk about, things that can help hold, soil in place so you get more erosion into the streams. You talk about, losing vegetative cover for the stream that keeps the stream cool for all sorts of animals that inhabit the stream. So in those situations, the loss of ash could be really catastrophic.
Thank you for the interview.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Did I pass?
You passed.
Awesome.